Daily LinkedIn Live. I am so honored to have Gretchen Skulka here today. We've had some really cool conversations, and Gretchen is totally immersed in LinkedIn and the value it could bring to all parties involved. And we're leveraging LinkedIn Live to demonstrate that. I've been doing LinkedIn Live every day for 6 months, and before that, I was just posting, commenting, and normal stuff, being part of the crowd. And now it's really allowed me and people who I really admire, like Gretchen, to really get a foothold into it and take full advantage of it. So with that, let me introduce Gretchen to you. And Gretchen can share a little bit of her background and what she's into. Gretchen?
Yeah, thank you. I am a career strategist and leadership development coach. What I do is I help people construct systems to get them to a goal, right? And so sometimes it's just taking the first step toward a goal, but that's really where I operate, is helping people
Mm-hmm.
move into where they want to be and who they want to be. And so that's career focused, but also leadership. And I've been coaching since 2009, but I only took the leap right into making this a full-time business 7 months ago. So it's still pretty new business. But before that, I was marketing director at a large automotive services conglomerate. They own a lot of franchise, wholesale, and retail brands. Before that, I worked for a containerized shipping company. And before that, I worked for a sports internet company. So I am also one of the women who has traditionally worked in male dominated fields and held leadership roles there. And I know that everything is possible. And the other side of saying that is that I have a sort of, for a long time, I think I looked at things that had happened in my personal life as sort of this, series of unfortunate events. And they were. I mean, having your house blow up is not like, yay, that happened. But, all of those things really help put me in position to be able to do what I'm doing now, and come from a place of real, like, just, been there, if, and I love the phrase, if you live it, give it. So if you've learned something, share it, give. So it's another reason why I really, like we were just talking about, I love the LinkedIn feel right now, that it is so much community. It is so much knowledge share and encouragement and helping people. And there are people who are really experts in very, very specific fields that are so ready to share with you what they know. And I've benefited from that personally. And I'm very grateful for that. So that's just a little bit about me, and kind of, a little bit about how I've gotten into where I am now. But yeah, I'm also very talkative. So stop me at any time.
Well, happy goes a very long way on LinkedIn. And, it's really not so much how you make people think, but how you make people feel. And, the thinking is good too, but the feeling lasts a little longer, maybe has a little more motivational element to it. But
Yeah.
it's also the camaraderie, the collaboration,
Yeah.
the teaming up to root somebody on or to congratulate somebody after they've achieved something significant or something they really went after. Because, living vicariously is really a great way to live, because someone's winning all the time.
Right.
It doesn't have to be you on the
Yeah.
field. You
Yeah.
could be there for them. And what happens is they become there for you. And
Yeah.
just having a fan club, whether your record is 0-16 or 16-0, makes you want to get on the field every day.
It's something that I used to tell people when I was still, and I created a department at my last company, Content Creative Services. And it's something that I would tell people all the time. When good things would happen for people in other departments or ours, that something good, a promotion, a raise, a new opportunity, a project can happen for someone, means it can happen for anyone. And so
Hmm.
why wouldn't you champion that and want to be like, rah, 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 like, that's a good thing. More of that, please. Right. So that's something
Hmm.
I really, really would like people to sort of embrace. And I know it can be hard, right? When things that aren't so positive and aren't so pleasant are happening in our life, it's really easy to go inward and stay there. But, that's another aspect of community where you don't have to do that. There's always somebody out there who has some sort of shared experience that, they have two of these, they can wrap them around you and give you a hug, whether it's virtual or in real life. But that shared experience can be a lifesaver. Like it literally can. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just one of those things where, like you said, when something good is happening, get on that train. If it's happening for
Mm-hmm.
somebody else, choo choo, like drive the train for them, because that is going somewhere that you want to be. Like you want to be where
Mm-hmm.
the good stuff is. So yeah, get on the train. You can call it whatever you want. And I know there are people who think that that's not, that's not the way, but to me, that's like the only way. So yeah, yeah,
Well, that's a great way to redirect your thoughts and your attention, because a lot of times there's just too much you for you, right? And you got to get out of you at a certain point and get into someone and something else
yeah,
in order to feel like you don't have to measure yourself against your world every day. You can measure your participation with other people's worlds. And
yeah,
on LinkedIn, people invite you in if you're respectful, if you're honorable. And me and Gretchen were just talking. I just took the leap to LinkedIn Live because I want to be as authentic. I want to be as direct and honest, just to be fair to everybody. So it's not like, well, you thought this, but it really was this, because no one's got time for that. But
right.
the other thing is to really invite the right people. And the right people are basically those who are most aligned with you, people who you respect and look at and say, wow, there's so much to learn here, and
Yeah,
this is a quality person. Eventually you have to ask yourself, how many people can you have in your life that are quality at one time? I mean, there may not be a limit, but there's a point where you can get really busy with a few people and into what they're doing,
oh
and
yeah, yeah,
not focus on getting more of LinkedIn, but going deeper into LinkedIn with people who are, infused in it, who see the value, not the people who are just cheerleaders, but the people who see, wow, compared to what I was doing and how I was doing to now
yeah,
who I can do it with, where I can do it,
yeah,
and why I can do it. And the other good thing is you can change by the day. There's nothing in stone here, right?
yeah,
Take what you got
yeah,
today, make it a little bit better, and throw it out tomorrow, and you keep puffing it up, and you puff other people up.
yeah,
The benefit is in supporting people, getting behind people, because third party validation and just value by association, right?
yep,
Me and
yep,
Gretchen are helping each other because, first of all, both our audiences are introduced to us that would have
yeah,
never been, right?
yeah,
And there's a complement and a contrast that makes it more interesting and entertaining to see too. And it also is terrific on the person who doesn't have to take the whole ball of wax for 20 minutes
right,
and be on top of things. So it's the best of all worlds. And the point I was going to make, or we had talked about, is why not, if you're going to meet strangers, especially people from all over the world with all kinds of different backgrounds, blah blah blah, why wouldn't you want to meet in the most public place possible, right, in front of
yeah,
everybody, with a microphone and a camera on you, right? Can you imagine going to Starbucks and there's a microphone at the table and there's a camera and it's streaming your initial conversations to everybody?
yeah,
What it would do is make you plump up a little and want to be the best you could, right?
yeah,
Because you're on. And it gets rid of the bots, it gets rid of the scammers and everything else. So it's really a great filter to pre qualify. So, anyways, that was one thing extra about LinkedIn Live. But, I think where me and Gretchen are coming from and going to is really understanding the power and the strength people have once they're allowed to experience it, and
yeah,
to the bigger point, have support. If you're
yep,
fortunate to have family and friends who are always there for you, you're in a minority.
right,
right? There's a lot of people with dream stealers around them, who tell them what they can't do, what they shouldn't do, or just slowly drip on them by saying, how much did you make today?
Yeah.
Boy, you put a lot of time in. Did you get any money out of it? And they're honest, true statements, but they have no relationship or context to reality. It's a third person, not understanding. But, if you get enough of those people, you just
Yeah.
give up. You just
It
say, hey, go ahead,
Yeah,
Gretchen.
that negative self-talk, it becomes part of your personal narrative. And so when you hear that from other people, especially people who are influential in your life, be it a boss, a family member, a close friend, somebody who has sway over you, who you care what they think, when they say those things, as well-meaning as they may be about things, and usually, those people are well-meaning in your life, but it's coming from a protective place, which is coming from a place of fear that whatever you're doing, there's or want to do, here's a cascade of reasons not to. And so you digest that, and it's like, the worst prepackaged, ultra processed, everything bad for you piece of food you could take in. And it goes right to your brain. It becomes part of that story that you tell yourself. I can't, I shouldn't, I don't. And those kind of things, they sort of manifest in other ways. They manifest physically, right? They manifest mentally. And those become the stories we tell ourselves, and they become the life we don't live. And
Mm-hmm.
the other side of that is, I used to say this to my sister a lot. You get one ride on this rock, right? One. So at some point, go for it. Have that faith in yourself, have that confidence, right? And just see what happens. Whether it's asking, for more authority at work, or it's time to talk about a raise. A lot of people shy away, or talking to your doctor. A lot of people look at their doctor as like the authority, and I can't question what they're saying. Get in there. Part of the discussion, it has to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need to find that support, it is out there for you, right? So that's one of the things that I really like about this platform too, is that I've found so many supportive people, and you had one on your show recently, Jenny Maxwell, who
Oh,
is
yeah.
like amazing, So I just, when I met her, it was like bells went off for me, and I just felt really, really close to her. Julie McVeigh is another one. Like, there are so many people that I've met here that they have such good insight, and it's from lived experience, and they're sharing it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's the other part, is when you open yourself up to that kind of, give and take, like real give and take, like you were talking about, that authentic, like, showing up and really seeing what the other person has to offer and giving something back. The reward for that is just so deep and personal. Like, it's hard to really kind of quantify it, but
Mm-hmm.
you feel it, and then it begins to show up in your life. You have that increased confidence, because there's somebody else who's like, yeah, you go, girl, like, you can do this, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just, I can't post today, I am nervous, I don't think I have anything to say. Yeah, you do. Everybody does, and that's, I see Mark, because Mark's another person
Mm-hmm.
that I met, and he is, yeah, he's got such a niche area. Like, he's a voice coach, but he, to help you find it. And so again, there's just such richness of experience and expertise and just help out here.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that it can really help break down barriers too, and also buoy your system, so that you don't always tell yourself no, because that's what you've heard from
Mm-hmm.
other people who have some influence in your life. Yeah.
No, that's very, very profound and valuable. Thank you, Mark Cox.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this, guys. Network so crucial, connecting people to the right people to help them in their next steps. So true. And all you have to do is do a little every day and add to it. Make things a little bit better. And there's a saying, if it's going to be, it's up to me, right?
Oh,
Don't
I
wait
like
for the
that.
cavalry. Don't
I've not
wait
heard
for,
that one. I like it.
well, and that's taking the bull by the
Yeah.
horns and really
Yeah.
just saying, I need to work harder. There's a saying, don't ask for a lighter load, ask for broader shoulders. And
Mm.
the key is to muscle up and challenge yourself.
Yeah.
When you ask yourself, it's so weird. When you work for somebody, you can work 50, 60 hours a week and know you have no choice, right? You go into business for yourself as your own LinkedIn entrepreneur, and you're working an hour and a half in the morning, 2 hours at night, picking up a half hour there. And then you're wondering, hey, how come I'm not getting as far as I should?
Mm-hmm.
And the point is why aren't you working as hard for yourself as you were for someone else and build your own dream?
Yeah.
And why don't you have a sense of urgency?
Yeah.
If you look at every day as a blessing, why waste it on why something isn't happening and not telling yourself it's because I'm not doing enough to make it happen?
Yeah, it's and again, all of that is available to us like all the time. It's just a matter of really kind of getting behind the wall, right? That we bump up against all the time. That can't, shouldn't, don't. Don't bump up against it. Step back and figure out a way to go around it or over it, because you can. The challenge for a lot of people is, we live in this sort of world where we can have everything immediate, right? I can text you, I can get food delivered, I can have Amazon come today if I wanted to. So all this immediate stuff, where some of this, it's going to take a little bit. I was talking to somebody yesterday, I was like, you got to have patience. You got to do it every day. Like you going live every day for 6 months. That's such an achievement. Like, I just got comfortable doing live video. So I'm just like, woo, that is such an achievement to me. Like, wow. But you've done it. And it's this wealth of information that is now out there for other people to go and cull through and find that nugget that's going to be like, you know what? Yeah, I never thought about it that way. And now that's out there for other people. So you created that. You created that opportunity for other people just by taking the opportunity and doing the work. And I think that is something that everybody can do. It may not always seem easy or seem like the most logical thing or something that you feel like you can, but you can. You can. I mean, this year alone, so many things that historically, like you and I were talking about, I can't, I won't, blah, blah, blah. No, we're doing it. We're doing it.
Well, and here's the thing. No one's got anything to say who isn't doing it about someone who
True.
is, no matter how they're doing it. And the other, and I want to recognize Joshua Kenny. Wow, I like it. That's so true, Donald. Appreciate it. We're open to comments and basically, love being able to really get you the valuable information that might be able to turn the corner for you. And what's so great about what Gretchen was saying is that what we're doing now duplicates through Gretchen. So you become much more influential when you collaborate, when you lock arms with someone and join forces, and all of a sudden they get an audience. And the beauty of it is it has nothing to do with me or Gretchen. It's LinkedIn, and it's LinkedIn Live. They created it. They support it. It costs nothing really to leverage it. So the key is your voice ready to be projected?
Yeah.
And are you happy with yourself? You know what I mean? Not so much doing it. Because if you can talk to anybody on Zoom, you could talk to anybody on LinkedIn Live.
It's
right. And I don't know anybody else is out there, right? Right now, it could be me and Gretchen. And you know what? That would be perfect, because the same information is getting shared between us and hopefully getting applied at a future date. But more importantly, if people can meet Gretchen for who Gretchen is and what Gretchen thinks, it saves so much of that smoke signals and opaque stuff on drop a comment, pick up a like, throw out a post, see in a week, wink, wink, nod, nod. It's like, hey, no, let's get real. Let's get down to business. Let's get to work. And the work is to help others. The more you help, the more you'll help yourself. I know it's a weird concept if you've been dependent on a paycheck and you always do something to get something or get something to do something. But when you're here, people will support you in time either a combination of guilt or gratitude or both, right?
Right.
Right? If you're saving their life, if you're making a difference, and listen to this, if you're around alligators, right, and they're all chopping at your heels, your support group.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great to elevate to a place where you're appreciated, where you're supported,
Yeah.
where you're guided, and that gives you the bridge to break free. The idea is not only association, but disassociation,
Yeah.
right? Who's the elevator buttons bringing you down versus the one taking you up?
Yeah.
And if it's
And
going to be, it's up to me. Another thing is, here's the other thing I've learned, because everybody comes into this world with nothing. So the worst they can actually do is break even, right? But but what I learned over time is so many people are afraid of falling out their window. They don't realize they're on the first floor,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
And they've never looked outside to see how far off the ground they are.
Yep.
And they've never trusted themselves to trust themselves. The game is between you and yourself, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's the what is it they say, the distance from here to here can be like, forever. I mean, I've been called a couple, like David Ketchen called me the other day the digital equivalent of caffeine, but I've also been called a walking exclamation point. But there's a reason for that, because I did that. I spent years as an ellipse, right? Waiting the next thing. And then finally when I was like, this is not the way. And I'd seen other people doing that. And I was like, you're like, I want that. I want the energy. I want that possibility. I want that life. And then you realize, like, I can have that, I can do that. I can give that. That is like, that's Christmas every day. I mean, so I did that. I was that first floor person thinking that, well, if I open the window, I'm going to get, I'm going to fall out. And like, no, that's actually not what happens. And, the what you find is that courage, once you open the window and you're like, holy mackerel, not only am I not going to do it, but look at all these other things that are available to me out there. Like, it's just crazy. Like all the time that I spent, I look back on it and I can laugh about it now, but I wasn't laughing then, So it's, you're absolutely right.
Well, most times you don't know what you're into until you're out of it, and you look back at it, and then you can examine something and say, wow. But here's the beauty of it is, whatever's going on, it's like unringing a bell. It's not going to change.
Yep.
There's a saying, don't look back unless you want to go back. Throw away your rear view mirror. And, your past does not have to define your future. And the beauty of LinkedIn is it's a reinvention opportunity. No matter where you are, you got there because of people or situations, some of them of your own choosing, some of them just happen chance. But now's the time to reset.
Yeah.
Right? Now's the time to get the new model, the 2022 model that says, I'm going to keep a lot of this vintage quality material, but I'm going to add some new age right now stuff to it, and get out there, right? And introduce oneself. And here's the way to do it is what we're doing right now, because what you want to do is you want to personalize your own show. You want to theme it, right? You can't just say I'm a LinkedIn person, but I can say all I'm doing now is LinkedIn Live. So that's a subset. If it's not LinkedIn Live, I'm not going to help anybody show them how to, get more content or get more tags going or views. I did that. I still do it because every LinkedIn Live automatically posts as a post. Yeah. So, you already just did your post today without doing a post. You did a video that no one else is doing. You do it every day. Now I'm going to move to twice a day.
What?
Well, it's just so like cool. It's not working out. You say I couldn't lift that much, and then after a week, you say, hey, maybe I can lift a little bit more. And after 6 months, what I did, which was so cool, when you start with nothing, that's where everybody starts.
Yeah.
They always say start before you're ready. So what I did is I took every spot for myself. So 7 days a week, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Eastern time, because then everybody knows you're there every day. And if I can get in front of a desktop for 10 minutes around 9 a.m. sometime every day, just to say, hey, I was just walking by the computer. Here's what I was thinking. What do you think? That's as
Yeah.
simple as it is. And if you can visualize, and I think visualization is so important for context.
Yeah.
You're walking down a busy convention center, and somebody says, hey, we got 100 people in this room waiting to hear something you've got to say for 10 minutes. Can you spare us a few minutes?
Yeah.
You'd be dancing into the place, right?
Yeah.
You'd be
Yeah.
saying, this is great. This is why I want to be here. And thanks for being here for me. And here's what everything turns around for the better. People have gotten to know you before they've gotten to have to know you,
Right. Yeah,
right? Because
that's
they've
true.
seen you, they've
Yep.
heard you. You
Yeah.
know, when they finally meet you, they know who you are. They know what you're about.
Yeah.
So now it's like, hey, and the next question is, let's have a LinkedIn Live,
Yeah.
right? You saw me here, let's do it. And you know, all it is what we did, send you a link, hit live.
Yeah.
You're talking just as if you weren't talking on LinkedIn Live.
Yeah. Yeah.
And meanwhile, we'll get, you know, I did a wonderful LinkedIn Live last week with Lisa.
Edmondson?
Do you know? Yeah.
Yes, I love her.
And,
I
we
love
did it for
her.
like 43 minutes.
Yeah.
It was the number one LinkedIn Live I did. We had 1,000 impressions.
Yeah.
We had like 170 views.
Yep. She is
and-
amazing. And so, like, she's got her finger on the pulse of so much that's going on and that people need to know about. And also, she can design the courses to teach them those things. Like, yeah, she's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, almost everybody in that group, you know, has come on a LinkedIn Live, and it's kind of like been a home run for everybody involved. Because here's the thing, it's the chemistry and it's the projection, and who you're with makes you shine
Yeah.
based on what the topic is, but also based on the interaction and enthusiasm. You know, they say everybody hears your music, not your words.
Yeah.
Right? So if
Yeah.
you're excited and you're happy,
Yeah.
you know, how many times have you ever found yourself laughing around people who are laughing so hard and you had no idea what they were laughing about?
Do you? Yes, that I do it, and it's funny because not haha funny maybe, but for some people, but like I'm only on Facebook because I opened my business, but my husband is on there and he likes to complain about like football and stuff. So last week I just spent a whole day trolling him, and it was the most fun. It was like such a stress reliever for me, but I find myself doing that. I just think some things are just wickedly funny, and other people are like, why is she laughing at that, like what's going on here? But I like I say, I don't know, you know, why, and sometimes I'm sure people are just like scratching their head like what is going on there, but there is so much, even when, like I was telling you earlier, when it's not something bad is happening, you can thought switch that baby and you can find something good. You absolutely can. So yeah, it's you know, I challenge anybody who doesn't think that's so, give it a try. You would be so surprised.
Yeah, no, you can absolutely change the channel. My wife's a yoga instructor for a long time, and she was into laughter yoga for quite a bit. And
Yeah.
you know, you find yourself creating the laughter,
Yeah.
but the benefit of the laughter is the same as if it was from a joke or something. And you know, it shows you the power of self-actualization.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn is a great way to open yourself up to not so much give so much, which I think is worth doing, but to give yourself enough room to absorb so much and to exchange what isn't working for you anymore.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, I know people on LinkedIn who are crushing it, who are just doing everything they ever wanted and more out of it.
Yeah.
So it works for the people who work it,
Yeah.
and the people who work it as a business. I mean, if you're going to be a hobby player, then you're so there already.
Yeah.
You should have no pressure, have fun. There's a lot of great people, a lot of great content. But if you're serious about getting to the other side,
Yeah.
and the beauty of the world today, it's all been disenfranchised. Everything's
Yeah.
been tilted upside down, and now everybody's finding their spot based on them being able to earn a spot.
Yeah.
There are a lot of legacy players, especially in corporate America, and people who were political and for all kinds of reasons should have never been in charge of people or things
Yeah.
that they were.
Yeah.
But on LinkedIn, that all those chains just all disappeared, right?
That's a really good point, because we talk a lot about like Alexander, in his book on Like a Boss, like that's one of the things that there are people who are great at process, and then there are people who are great at working with and supporting and developing other people. Not everybody can do both, and some should do neither. But unfortunately, like you were saying, a lot of times people are put into positions that that is not their shine. They should not be there, and yet they are, and they're left there. And the rot that happens because of that is pervasive. It is palpable. It is, and we all feel it, and it comes home with people and becomes a part of their life. And so it is definitely something to talk about. But I love that you just said that, Tom, because it's so true with LinkedIn. Like, and I know there are companies who, and I have worked for some, who will very strongly discourage you from posting because they don't want to have to police what's going on. And there's a whole psychology behind somebody who feels that they have to do that in the first place. But there's not, you can make, like, it's a landscape. Like, you look at all the things out there and which parts you want to take part in, which parts you want to add to. And you can subtract parts if they're not working for you, but I love that. And you've actually, like, we talked before we went live about, my phobia of video and how I got over that. But, I really think that this is one, and you're the reason that I really think like this is something I really want to grab more of, because it is such a more immediate way to talk to people and get to know what's going on and figure out like what they're about, and see if you can connect those people with other people, right? Because again, to Mark's point earlier, networking is, it's community. I'm not a fan of the word networking because I think it has like these old school connotations to it that, but community is like so important. I mean, I mentioned it this morning in a quickie Facebook Live I did that I put on LinkedIn. But this is definitely like a very, very nice, comfortable platform. And it's such a great way to have a conversation that, we wouldn't be able to even do before, Yeah. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but it wouldn't have given you an opportunity to express so much to so many.
True.
Because really what you have demonstrated, because I'm a co-host as well as a viewer, is you've got a fine engineering approach and the ability to qualify situations and people really quickly.
Yeah.
And we're really dealing with a two-step to success opportunity with LinkedIn. It's knowing how to use LinkedIn and how to be the best you can on LinkedIn. But after that, you've got to bring valuable service to whoever you attract.
Yeah.
Now, you may be a great friend and somebody who's a visionary and people look up to, but the proof is actually like, okay, you entered my life.
Yep.
I have this expectation.
Yep.
You exuded all this confidence.
Yep. Bring it.
I have to see something.
Yep.
Right. And that's where people fail.
Yeah.
Because they've never had the experience you have.
Yeah.
They've never had the challenge in corporate America, like you say, with having to dilute yourself
Yep.
to accommodate
Yep.
whatever it is, and then everybody's less for it, and everybody knows it too.
Yeah.
On top of it, it's not just you. It's
Yeah.
not like, well, I saw a secret. I hope no one figures it out.
Yeah.
But then you get tired of being like phony or like, I hate doing this.
Yeah.
I hate saying this.
Yeah.
I hate, and if you keep hating something that you keep doing,
Yes.
you learn to tolerate it and get numb to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're right. You come home a more numb person a more disappointed, dissatisfied
Yep.
individual. And you know what? Just like laughter yoga, if you create those negative
Yes.
feelings and situations, they're going to infuse in something.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You telegraph that in your body language, you telegraph it. I mean, you radiate that out when you feel that internally. You don't hide that. I know a lot of people think that they do, but you're not hiding it. You know, it comes out in your speech and how you interact with people, your physical demeanor, like it comes out when there's something in there that you need to work on. You know, but you also said something really important, which is, you know, yeah, I mean, we all have these experiences that we can draw from. It's like I go back to, if you've lived it, if you live it, give it, right? So,
Mhm.
you know, everyone has that. So everyone has something that they can draw on if they've gotten to that point where they know how to draw on it, where they know how to reframe it and come at it from a different perspective of not, you know, catastrophizing everything
Mhm.
instead of finding that nugget in there that's like, you know, that's the thing that's going to move you forward. There is always one. There absolutely is always one. Sometimes there are a lot of them, you know, but there is. And understanding that, but also like looking for it and making sure your eyes are always peeled for that thing, that will change absolutely everything. Bad things can happen and they won't rattle you that way. They won't stop you in your tracks. They won't, you know, prevent you from being what you should be, because you'll be able to go, okay, then get down to it. Okay, that's something I can work with, right? But you know to
Mhm.
look for it because you know it's there. If you don't think it's there, you're never going to try, and then you'll miss it. And then you'll, like you said, be doing the same thing that makes you miserable over and over and over again. And living the same life over and over, the same day over and over. No, thank you. Sorry. No, please. I don't want that.
Well, you know, that's so key because you have to ask yourself a couple questions. Because again, you got to be your own gyroscope, keep you straight on course, right?
Yeah.
And the question is, why am I doing this in the first place?
Yes.
And usually it's like, well, I got a big house, big car, got this, I got to have this. And you know, you could just and if you're in a not in the best place, all those possessions don't bring you happiness. If anything, I learned because I lived a lot of different levels and extremes, is that when you have more things, they have you,
Yep.
right? And if you can minimize so you can do what you want, if you can buy your freedom back and rent somewhere and do without for a while so that you can be happy, so that you can get to where you always wanted to be,
Yeah.
it's not a sacrifice. It's a ticket to change and to benefit. And the other real key thing next to that part of it is really understanding who it is that you're missing, right? What if you were needed a board of directors, right? Or you had a
Mm-hmm.
baseball team, and you would say, well, what do we need here? Do we need defense or offense or
Yep.
whatever? You'd look for it, and here's what you'd want to do. You'd be right for it. You would overpay for it just to make sure you got it,
Right.
right? You would
Yep.
go out of your way longer, faster, better,
Yep.
because it would get you safety and opportunity. So, Mark Cox, networking equals making friends professionally. So absolute. And here's the other thing, the proof is in what we're doing today, because when this is over, we'll have had a great audience. You've had made a first impression, and eventually someone will say, you know, I got two or three really nuggets, you know, from Gretchen, or Gretchen made me think a little more differently or feel a lot better. And oh, the question I was going to make is compared to what? If people say this is awful, how awful have you ever experienced,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Compared to what? This is like, you know, this is like a playground,
I
you
mean,
know?
I'll say this too, going back to, you know, aspiring to possessions, which, you know, if that's your thing, cool. You know, if that's your thing. But having been in, and again, I reference it just because who does this happen to? Having your house blow up. But when you are like that, reduced to nothing, you have no possessions, you don't have anything. I mean, the car's in the driveway, but the house is a shell. And so you're going to leave with nothing. It really does level set your expectations, but it also, for me, it amplified how grateful I was for so many other things. And we ended up after the initial hotel, my husband and I ended up, a friend of his found a place that we could stay for 3 months. And it was in Jupiter, Florida. And it was like less than a block from the beach. I mean, it was like the most idyllic place. But inside this lady's apartment, and Nancy Dennis was her name, and she was an angel for us because she let us stay in her condo. Upstairs in the one bedroom, she had one of those old style desks that had like the flop thing that would come down and then you open it this way. And when you opened it, on the inside of one of those doors was all this like positive phrases that she had written in like gel pen. And I was like, holy moly, that's there. Every day I read that. Every day. Because I also had my first real panic attack there because it was like 3 days after the house blew up because we spent 2 in the hotel. I mean, it was so great being there. But the point of that is that you never know where and when that opportunity is going to have to sort of help you pivot your mindset. Because again, if I was waiting until everything got settled with the insurance company or the lawsuit, which we eventually had to file, got settled, or if I waited for all that to be happy, that would never happen because I need to do that now. That's my, you put that in your suitcase and you travel with it. Your happiness. It's not a destination. It's got to be where you are because you're not going to find it out there. You got to find it where you are, and there's no other way to do it. And I know that's hard for people when they're up against a situation that feels impossible, whether it's a financial crunch or it's, a relationship crunch or it's something else that's happening that feels very negative. But I'm telling you, I've done this so many times in my life. There is something there. And you grab onto it and you hold it really tight and you go from there because that's going to be the foundation that everything else will get built from. And you said another thing too that was really important, who you meet, who you spend your time with, that matters. That's either going to buoy you or it's going to sink you. So you are kind of the product of how you spend your time, who you spend it with, what you spend your time reading or taking in, that kind of thing. So you want to be careful about that. It's important.
Well, and that's where I think if you are in a tough situation and you don't know how to build a team overnight and the team you have isn't going anywhere, is to have a coach.
Yes.
Find somebody who's professional, like Gretchen, like myself. There's so many wonderful people. Watch this show, watch Gretchen's content. You'll find them, right? Yeah. They're around. They're making comments. You'll see them. Yeah. So if you like who people are, you'll even like who the people are that they hang out with. And now you've expanded your group one more level. And, the thing is take the initiative. The ones who are proactive make all the benefit. The ones who are sitting around asking somebody to dance or waiting for someone to ask them to dance, they're sitting a long time. And you know what they do? They ended up with who picked them. Why don't you pick the person? Yeah. Why don't you choose?
Or a dangerous person for me, and this is a composite, but this person, it does exist, is the person who their only input is a negative, right? It's a critical. It's a, this person is doing X, Y, and Z, or this will never work because blah, 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 or I don't like it when people do X, Y, Z, instead of, having a positive in there. And again, that's one of those things, it's interesting that you mentioned leadership because I've had a couple of clients who, when we first talk about leadership development, we talk about what is your ideal leadership look like? What does that look like that you would groove to, that you aspire to be? Great. Let's hold that up. Now let's talk about your current leadership style. And you would be surprised. I was, how they don't match up.
Mm-hmm.
And there are reasons for that. So you got to get into that, because if this is your ideal, but you're operating here, we got some work to do, you know? And so that's where that lens of another person, that perspective can be so helpful, because, you know, sometimes I'll do something and I'll think, you know, historically that it was great. And when I was still in my corporate role leading my team, I would have people, and I'm so grateful that we had this relationship where they'd be like, Scalca, no, that was not the thing, you know, and that we had it that way, because that's very important. That give and take, that honest
Mm-hmm.
exchange of information. You can be critical, you can give me the real deal, but it's how we do that. And
Mm-hmm.
again, when you're going through something hard, like we talked about, that you feel is impossible, I guarantee you this: every day, every minute of every day, how you go through and get through something with everybody else along your path absolutely determines if they'll be there on the other side with you and for you. And you have control of that entire path. How you are interacting and behaving, and bringing everybody in or not. If they're not there, there's a reason for that, and we have to take responsibility for that. So that also is part of leadership. When you have, you know, a challenge, you all have to move together, and you have to, as a unit, figure out how that happens. You know, you're not leading if nobody's
Mm-hmm.
wanting to go with you. Like, there's something wrong there. So, but yeah, that was a really good point, and I know that happens a lot for people, and it's one of those things that I, you know, when I first noticed it, it was really interesting to me, and now I understand why that happens for people, and we know how to work through it. But it's interesting when the vision of leadership and the execution aren't matching up by the person in a leadership role. Yeah,
Yeah, but that's the beauty of what we're doing with LinkedIn Live is people get a chance to really express and explore one and another,
yeah,
right? Based on their stories, based on their experiences, based
yeah,
on their direction. But at the end of the day, what it really comes down is what is someone's intent, right?
yeah,
That's the primary thing. So
yeah,
I hear what they said. Why did they say it? Or what was the intention? Or what was the benefit? And, you know, a lot of times people are afraid to question a question,
yeah,
you know? It's like, I don't quite understand, but I think this is what they meant. No, why would you think? Why
yeah.
would you not understand?
Ask. Yeah,
Why wouldn't you just say, hey, by the way, this is curious, you know? I mean, too many people, they react instead of they respond,
yeah,
right? Something happened, boom, they got to do something versus, hey, I'll think about it, I'll get back to you tomorrow,
yeah,
right? People just don't want to, either they're lazy and let's get it over with, or they're reactive in a way that they really didn't control it. It was
yeah,
just an auto reaction
yep,
to something. And
yeah,
the thing is who wants to be with you? So just because you can help somebody and you believe that, are you the kind of person they want to be with? Are you the
yeah.
because here's what happens. Half of the conversation turns out to be nothing about what you're talking about. You know, if you become friendly pretty soon, it's like, hey, what are you going to be doing for Halloween?
Right.
Or hey, what about the ball game? Or how's the weather? I mean, and people want a friend as well as anything else that goes with it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they know that person will be there, but also they're getting compensated to be there,
Yeah.
right? So it's almost instructive that they're going to do a little bit more to stay there. You know, someone told me actually, Jim Rohn, you know, a great speaker,
Yeah.
old timer. You know, I went to a lot of things that he did, and we were talking one day, and he says, you know, if you want to get really good service in a restaurant, he said, tip in advance, right?
Oh,
You're
I
going to
never
give the
thought about
person
that.
a tip, and it's
Yeah.
because let's say you got a business group, and you give somebody here's $50 or $20, whatever the number is, and say, by the
Yeah.
way, when we're talking, I don't want anybody disturbing us, or make sure the water's always filled, or we're not going to order for 45 minutes, so leave us alone. I mean, whatever it is, he said, you're going to guarantee the kind of service you wanted.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing on LinkedIn is tell people what your urgent situation is right now to help someone and to help you with that someone.
Yeah.
And then what happens is the word gets out. And here's one thing: there's a saying: if you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money. Right? And what I learned, if you really want to get someone interested, I shouldn't give away all my secrets, but is ignore them. You know, here's the deal: a guy would go to a resort. I knew a guy who was fabulously successful and started out as an 11th grade truck driver. You know, and he went to the top. And he said, me and my wife would go to some of the most fantastic resorts. And we go to the pool, and before you know it, she was striking up a conversation, and we had like two couples for dinner that night. And the person I really wanted to talk to, I didn't give any attention to. You know, I just kept talking to the other couple and the other person and says, well, and the other person, well, let me explain and let me share my stuff. And before you knew it, they couldn't get enough of me, right? Because no one was chasing. You know, it's like
Yeah.
a dog. If you run after them, they're gone forever. If you run away, they come towards you. So there's
Yeah.
a psychology to trust that your value and projection will get appreciated. And somebody, like I say, out of guilt or gratitude will say, I want more than a tidbit.
Yeah.
You know, or
Yeah.
I need it now. You know,
Yeah.
what you're doing is perfect for my situation. And what we're doing is really getting known before we're needed,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? If you need me down the road, you know me now and you know
Yeah.
more about me. And if you want to learn even more, come to my LinkedIn Lives,
Yeah.
right? And then everybody ratchets up together because it's like the beginning of the beginning LinkedIn Live. No one knows the potential. No one's really,
It's
you
true.
know,
Yeah.
stressed it out, took it on the track. That's why I'm trying to do more and more with more people, because I love building organically. I
Yeah.
love just putting a bunch of stuff in a pot and stirring it all up and letting it bubble over
Yeah.
wherever it needs to be and
That's
have
how
fun just making a mess.
but those last. And, you know, the things that are built organically, they really do last. You know, and that's why I think it's so important. You know, I mean, yeah, stress test it out because nobody really has. I mean, like I don't know, you know, like crash the system, that kind of thing. But I think that it's really important to do because it's powerful. You know, just being able to talk to people. You know, there are a lot of people. I mean, who spent 2 years by themselves, really. I mean, yeah, okay, working with other people, but you know, they're by themselves. I was talking with a friend of mine who it was very, very, very difficult for him. You know, every day he would wake up, it's like the same walls, same door. Yeah, I can get on my computer and I can have a Zoom with people, but I'm still here. And so that, you know, being able to have that conversation, even if it's this way with a screen, it's still that human connection. You gotta have it. You gotta have it.
Well, out of 810 million people on LinkedIn, relative to how many do LinkedIn Live,
Yeah.
there's a huge audience out there that is yet to get in. And you've proven today you can go from 0 to 60 on LinkedIn Live pretty easily because you're just a natural, you know, and it didn't
I'm a,
inhibit any of your storytelling or
it's
your impulsiveness in a quality way uh,
yeah,
to get out there, you know.
yeah,
And people need expression. You know, people have been stifled for so long. You know,
yeah,
people have been told to be quiet or that's
yeah,
enough, you know, and eventually if you keep telling people to be quiet instead of saying, hey, here's a microphone, everybody's waiting to hear from you. And
yeah,
all of a sudden that true voice shows up. And all of a sudden you've got you again.
yeah,
You know, you know, when I retired from my business, you know, I had owned my own business for about 37 years, and you know, and it was a big business, and you had so many relationships every day, you know, and I had my home family and I had my business family,
yeah,
and you know, when I left it, it was a little bit of a change, you know, going from you
yeah,
know what I was to what I was, and at the same time, I said, you know, how much of me I got back, how much of me that people had that now I can redirect
yeah.
or reinvest for better, you
It's
know.
so true.
Yeah, and that's what you got to always be happy about, because during some of the worst situations, and it's as worse is for anybody who determines what worse is,
Yeah.
it really got down to just breathe. That was as basic as it got.
Yep.
You know, when you just had to say, I can't even fathom or think or
Yep.
deal, it's
Yep.
like, hey, just breathe and make yourself something to eat eventually. You know, you got to eat, you know. And
Oh
what I
yeah.
figured out is there was no way I was going to figure this out or get comfortable in whatever time there was. So it's like, hey, grant yourself a reprieve, give yourself an extension. You know, that's really the key is when I ask people, when you're by yourself and you're contemplating, are you thinking of the biggest disappointments and the worst things that have happened to you? Or does your mind gravitate to the most exciting, victorious, celebratory things? And
You
why
know,
is that? Why? And you know what
yeah.
both are. There's a lot to choose from.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember, like I say, and I did that. I did that for a while. I got super invested. I went through a period, 2014, where my niece committed suicide. My mom got sick, and then she passed. And then my dad was hit by a train. He's still with us. He is Superman. My husband had surgery, didn't wake up for 6 days. And then, other things happen, and then poof, the house blows up. So there was like a trail of things. And I remember at one point I was talking with somebody, and I just burst into tears, and I was just like, everything is bad. And I got invested in that. And I mean, there were things that happened before that, but 2014 was sort of this watershed beginning of things. And I did. That was the coat I wore, Donald. That was the coat I wore. Everything's bad. And when I took that coat off and I found me under there, I can never not be happy. That is like, it literally is like coming out of a tunnel, the longest tunnel that you think there's no end to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you burst out. And yeah, it's that kind of metaphorical, like sunshiny, like meadow, but that's what it felt like. And I'm always so grateful that happened, that I was able to arrive at that and be like, yeah, I don't have to wear that coat anymore. It doesn't fit me. It's heavy. I don't like it. It restricts me. Like, everything about that metaphor is true, and there's a reason for it. And that, I think, can apply to anybody. Yes, bad things will happen, like you said, but you've got to find that way to pivot. You got to find that perspective about it. And other people in your life can help you do that. And it's one thing where, like you said, if somebody's watching a LinkedIn Live and they're getting just one nugget out of it, something that is positive and beneficial for them, doesn't that make it time well spent?
Well,
Yeah.
maybe it makes time in the future better invested, because now you can say, I used to do a lot of turnarounds and restructurings, and those were real gratifying after you got good at them, because you were saving the lifeboat instead of seeing the whole thing kind of go down.
Wow.
And what I learned so much about doing that is that all people needed was hope.
Yeah.
All people needed was one more day. Don't turn the lights off yet. Go to sleep, eat a nice meal, relax, and come back, and we'll talk then, right? And give
Yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
one more day before you do something that you can't undo. And I believe there's hope,
Yeah.
right? And if you don't believe in it, I believe in it, and maybe what you can't do by yourself, we could do together. And that's really the premise.
Yeah.
Is if you can do it all yourself, good for you. But
Yeah.
the other question is, I always say is why? Because it's more fun at the top when everybody gets there and can celebrate and enjoy it.
It's one of the reasons why, when I first started, coaching, it's sort of, changed. So it's evolved over the years. And so one of the things that it evolved into, as I really got about 8 years into it, was the middle level of management. And what you said is great, because I call those ladder throwers, right? So when you're first coming in, you haven't found your ladder yet. When you're up here, a lot of times people forget where they put their ladder. But when you're
Mhm.
here, you can have a ladder to throw to bring other people up. And I think that's so important, because that's why I think that middle tier is all opportunity, if you can get it in the right way and speak to them in the right way. But yeah, throwing that ladder back down, helping people, walk back up, bring them back up, all that, getting there together. Isn't that the goal? Like, who wants to get to the end and be like, yay, and I'm by myself, and yay. It was like, ain't no party if you're by yourself, right?
That is basically so many people struggle to one day win and have a celebration versus celebrate every day and
Yes.
recognize a win, because
Yes.
I'd rather feel like a winner every day and find out one day I lost than feel like a loser every day and one day find out I won and then I'm back to a new game,
Yeah.
losing again or feeling
Yeah.
bad, because there's a point where you pay yourself first. And you should say to yourself, and I did, you got to do these exercises. There was one time I decided for a week or two, I'm going to figure out how happy could I get how soon in the day,
Mm.
right? What's the soonest I could get really happy today? And,
Yeah.
if you're a kid and a lot of times you were having a hard time, your mother might say, well, here's some cookies and some milk, or, hey, let's do something fun. And all of a sudden you go from sad to happy, or, hey, that's all it took was
Yeah.
someone say, what's it going to take for you to get happy? So
Yeah.
you might say, well, I'd love to have this to eat, or I'd love to watch that, or call this person, and then do it then, right?
Yeah.
If you're not
Yeah.
where you want to be, what is it going to take and get there? Because you got the rest of the day waiting on you,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
And if you're going to drag into being sad,
Yep.
now all of a sudden you become the down elevator button.
Yep.
Right. And now
Yep.
you're just taking the progress and moving it back to inertia.
Everything. Exactly. Yeah. It's so
Well, we
important.
could talk forever, but I know, we've talked quite a bit. This has been wonderful. So anyways, thank you, audience.
Thank you. This has been so much
say a
fun.
few final words. If you can, if you liked it, share it with others. Come back and see more of them. And final words, Gretchen?
Just, like you said, I mean, it's all about your own perspective, and you really can, you can get your day and your life off on the right foot, but you've got to be the one to do it, to take that first step. There's always people who can help you. Like, that's the power of community. And I think I'm going to start doing some LinkedIn lives.
Well, I think you might see us and Gretchen again. So that would be a treat for everyone.
Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. Oh my God.
Well, you're so great at it. Really. I'm sincere. I'll say goodbye now.